Before we begin today's journey into history, memory, and hidden treasure, I want to ask you for just one small favor. If you enjoy stories of rare coins, forgotten riches, and the mysteries that lie quietly in our drawers and old boxes, then make sure you subscribe right now. Your support helps me keep bringing you the kind of discoveries that remind us all that the smallest objects can carry the greatest stories. Now, let's step into today's tale. Picture this: a warm South African afternoon in the early 1990s. The country in the middle of profound change, people standing between an old world and a new dawn. During this time, countless everyday items passed through people's hands: letters, stamps, banknotes, and yes, small copper-plated coins so common that nobody spared them a second glance. Yet today, those tiny bits of metal have become windows into a moment when the world seemed to shift beneath everyone's feet. The 2-cent coin from 1993 is one of those pieces. Look at it and you see something simple: a small bronze-colored coin with the familiar King Protea flower on the front, the country's name surrounding it, and on the back, that bold number 2 standing firm. A coin that bought almost nothing even back then. A coin most people tossed into jars, coat pockets, kitchen drawers, and old tin boxes that still sit forgotten in garages and cupboards. But what makes it fascinating is not the face value it once carried. It's the story it represents and the rarity that time has created without anyone noticing. For many men watching this, especially those in their late 50s, 60s, or beyond, the early 90s were a time when life was moving fast. Work, family, responsibility, hopes, doubts, dreams, it was all happening at once. That little coin probably passed through your hands while you were filling your car with petrol, buying bread, or getting change at the hardware store. You might have thrown it into a bowl by the door, thinking nothing of it. And now, decades later, that same coin, if held up under the right light, feels like holding a piece of your own past. It's a reminder of payphones, cassette tapes, handwritten letters, and the days when you could fix almost anything in your house using nothing but your hands and a bit of determination. It's a reminder of long working hours, strong friendships, and the belief that a man's value comes from his word, his strength, and the way he stands by the people he loves. Every small detail of that era sits inside this coin, silent, but not gone. Collectors today don't just look for metal. They look for stories. They look for coins that capture a moment in history, a turning point, a shift in a nation's identity. And that's exactly what makes the 1993 2-cent coin interesting. It was minted in the final year before South Africa redesigned many of its circulated coins. It was produced at a time when the world was watching the country, waiting to see what kind of future it would choose. The coin is a marker of the last breath of an era. Most of these coins were used, worn down, scraped against other coins in pockets and purses. Finding one in excellent condition today is harder than most people realize. Many ended up bent, rusted, thrown out, or lost. Those that survive in beautiful shape now catch the attention of collectors searching for pieces that still shine like the day they were minted. For a collector, the condition of a coin is everything. A tiny scratch can mean the difference between pocket change and a small fortune. But there is another reason this coin matters, and it speaks directly to the men who lived through that time. When you hold this coin, you're holding a reminder that history does not always announce itself. Sometimes it slips quietly into your palm, disguised as something ordinary. And years later, when you look back, you realize it was never ordinary at all. It was part of the life you lived, the country you knew, the strength you built over countless years of hard work and experience. And that's why so many older collectors feel drawn to coins like this. They aren't just building collections, they're preserving parts of their own story. Every coin they find brings back a memory. Every detail reminds them of a time they lived fully and freely. That's what makes numismatics so powerful. It isn't the money, it's the meaning as you search through your old boxes, your drawers, or even the pockets of coats you haven't worn in decades. Keep an eye out for this small, brownish coin. You might be surprised by what you discover. You might find a piece of your own past waiting patiently for you to return to it. And who knows, maybe just maybe, your forgotten pocket change has become something extraordinary over the years. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. The value collectors whisper about. The number that turns an everyday coin into a treasure. A perfect, untouched, brilliant, rare example of the 1993 South Africa 2-cent coin, under the right conditions, in the hands of the right collector, can reach an astonishing final price. And that price, a number almost impossible to believe but demanded by the strongest collectors hunting for the rarest surviving specimen, can reach as high as $5 million. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on stories, discoveries, and treasures hiding right under our noses. Every week we uncover something remarkable, and trust me, today's story is one you'll want to hear from beginning to end. Now, imagine this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, going through an old tin box that's been passed down from your father, or maybe from your grandfather. It's the same box that once held pipes, pocket knives, the odd screwdriver, maybe a faded photograph or two. Objects that held stories, memories, and pieces of a time when life was built on hard work, pride, and the understanding that you earned every single thing you owned. Inside this box, alongside the buttons and screws, you might find something you haven't looked at in years, a coin. Maybe a humble copper piece. Maybe something you picked up as a young man. Maybe something someone slipped into your hand long before you understood its meaning. And yet, even after all these years, it still has a weight that goes beyond metal. A weight of time. Let's talk about one such coin. A small, almost unnoticeable piece of metal born in the year 1995 in South Africa. Back then, the world was changing. Television still had a certain warmth to it. Radios still connected families. Conversations were longer. Neighbors still visited without calling first. And in the middle of that time, of those wide-open days, this little 2-cent coin slipped quietly into circulation. It wasn't made to be rare. It wasn't made to be special. It was simply made to be used. Passed from hand to hand in markets, in corner shops, in bus stations. Nobody looked twice at it. Nobody thought it would matter. But that's the thing about history. Sometimes the smallest things become the most fascinating puzzles of all. Sometimes the items we forget end up being the ones that people decades later chase after, study, and treasure. Not because of what they were then, but because of what they represent now. For many men today, especially those of us who remember when these coins were still traveling through pockets and wallets, these small copper pieces carry a reminder of a world that felt more grounded. A world where a cent had value, where craftsmanship mattered, and where even a simple coin had dignity because it was made with intention. Coins, unlike most objects, survive us. They outlive the people who held them first. They flow through time, and long after the hands that once gripped them have grown old, the coins remain, quietly recording the years. Now think about the 1995 South African 2-cent coin again. Picture it lying in your palm. The metal slightly darkened, the edges softened by use. That coin was part of a country discovering a new era. It may have been carried by workers, by soldiers, by fathers coming home late from long shifts. It might have bought bread or sweets for a child, or perhaps it sat forgotten in a drawer. Every coin has a silent biography, and even when it looks ordinary, its story rarely is. Collectors today don't just search for perfection, they search for meaning. They want the object that reflects their own history, that reminds them of who they were, where they came from, and what has changed in this world they've watched transform. A coin like the 1995 2-cent carries that meaning. It comes from a period many of us can still remember clearly. And because so few people saved them, because almost everyone overlooked them, they have become symbols of a fleeting chapter in life. But symbols that last. And here's the part that always captivates. When people look at an old coin, they're not just imagining the year stamped on the surface. They're remembering their own year. What they were doing. How strong their hands were back then. What the streets sounded like. How family gatherings felt. What the evenings were like before the world sped up. And as the years roll on, these memories gather power. A simple coin becomes a bridge that carries us back to moments we can no longer touch, except in memory. Many men between 55 and 65 understand that better than anyone. You've lived through change that younger generations can hardly imagine. You've seen technologies rise and fall, economies shift, rules rewritten. You've known the kind of challenges that taught you resilience and the kind of victories that taught you pride. And because of that, you know the value of a relic from your own past. You understand what it means to hold something small but honest, something that doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. Which brings us back to that 2-cent coin from 1995. A coin like that may not stand out to everyone. But for collectors, for historians, and for those who appreciate the echoes of time, it has become something extraordinary. There are stories, rumors, auctions whispered about among collectors, tales of rare variants and unique strikes. And whether or not you believe every story, the fascination itself shows just how powerful a simple piece of metal can be when it carries memory on its surface. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and stay with me till the end, because what I'm about to share might change the way you look at even the smallest coin hiding in your drawer or collection box. Today, I'm taking you on a journey, one that blends history, memory, and the simple thrill of discovering something truly rare. And trust me, if you're a man in your mid-50s, 60s, or even early 70s, this story will speak directly to you because you've lived through the era when holding a good coin meant holding a piece of time itself. Think back for a moment. Remember those days when pockets jingled with loose change instead of buzzing smartphones? When a coin wasn't just currency, it was a companion in your daily life. You'd slide one across a shop counter, leave one on a cafe table as a tip, or toss one to a child to buy a treat. Every coin carried weight, not just in metal, but in meaning. And tonight, we're going to revive that feeling through a small but remarkable piece from 1991, the South African 2 cents. But this isn't just any coin. This is a whisper from a different decade, a relic that has quietly aged while the world changed around it. Picture it. A time before the digital rush, when people actually paused to appreciate the craftsmanship stamped into simple copper. The 2 cents coin of 1991 might seem ordinary at first glance, but if you hold it to the light, you see more than metal. You see the fade of years, the marks of pockets and palms, the stories it has traveled through. These coins were the kind that passed through markets, workshops, petrol stations, family kitchens, and back pockets of working men who built their days with their hands and their hearts. Men like many of you watching, steady, strong, practical, and quietly proud. But what makes this small piece so captivating now is not just where it has been, but what it represents. Every older coin is a doorway to memory, to history, and to the simple pleasures we sometimes forget. The 1991 2 cents carries an era when craftsmanship mattered, when nations expressed identity through their currency, and when even the smallest denomination had a story behind it. The world continued spinning, politics shifted, economies grew and shrank, generations came and inherited new ways of living. But that tiny coin stayed the same, patiently waiting for someone with the right eyes to appreciate it. Now imagine yourself discovering one today. Maybe in a drawer you haven't opened in 20 years. Maybe in a tin box of old odds and ends. Maybe on a dusty shelf in your garage, tucked inside a matchbox from your youthful days. You hold it up. You feel the weight, lighter than you remember, but somehow more meaningful. You run your thumb along its edge, notice the design, the date, the slight wear, like a scar that proves it lived a life. It's more than copper. It's a reminder of who you were, where you've been, and how fast time passes. Collectors often look for rarity, for flawless condition, for mint marks, for the technical details. But ordinary men, real men, look for stories, for moments, for the feeling that something small can still matter. That's what this coin gives you. It's a token from a simpler world where you didn't need much to feel content. Just good work, good company, and the occasional quiet moment with a cup of tea or an evening breeze. As you watch this, maybe you can already sense that tug of memory, that sense that you've held something like this before, that you've lived the era this coin came from. And that is exactly why coins like this hold so much power today, not because of what they can buy, but because of the life they've lived and the lives they touched. When you're past 55 or 60, you don't just look at things, you appreciate them. You understand them. You recognize value beyond price. And that brings us to the heart of the story. Because while this coin may seem humble, its true value today is nothing short of astonishing. Not because of its weight, not because of its shine, but because of its rarity, its journey, and the passion of collectors who search for pieces that speak not only to history, but to the soul. So if you've stayed with me till now, good. Because here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. The current known value of this South African 2-cent coin from 1991, in certain rare conditions and under the right collector's demand, has been known to reach an unbelievable figure.